Imagine my shock when Taylor Swift is once again being accused of being a Satanist and performing demonic rituals on stage at the Eras Tour. I was so shocked. Pop star Taylor Swift has been accused of performing Aic rituals at her concerts during the Eras Tour by an Irish singer named Shane Lynch, who said that the Bad Blood singer might not even realize what she's doing. He said in a new interview, "I think when you're looking at a lot of the artists out there, a lot of their stage shows are satanic rituals live in front of 20,000 people without them realizing or recognizing. You'll see a lot of hoods up and masks on and fire ceremonies." It's basically eyes wide shut. Even down to Taylor Swift, one of the biggest artists in the world. You watch one of her shows and she has 2 or 3 different demonic rituals to do with pentagrams on the ground, to do with all sorts of stuff on her stage. But to a lot of people, it's just art, and that's how people are seeing it, unfortunately. And for context, Shane Lynch was in an Irish boy band that was formed back in 1993 called Boyzone. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Boyzone, but they had a few hits, and I think they were.
It kind of went hard.
I think that they were like a Christian, like leaning band, so it makes sense that this guy is definitely Christian. And I looked into him a little bit. It says Shane Lynch has coined a word for his bad boy years: Shaneanigans. The Boyzone singer spent much of his 20s between concerts and autograph signings, drinking, swearing, and getting into scraps. Around that time, he also became fascinated by the occult, the evidence of which is still visible in tattoos on his skin. This anti-God, anti-Christ season became a problem when Lynch later became a Christian, so he added more ink to alter the meanings. In this interview, he shares the full story of this conversion. So he's definitely publicly professing Christian, and he believes that Taylor Swift is a satanic influence on the youth.
The only cool outcome to this now, at this point, is just that she actually is evil and actually is blatantly doing it. That's the only way I accept this now.
This is a cool nostalgia factor, though. He's bringing back the argument that certain beats in music are demonic. He said when it comes to a lot of music that's out there at the moment, more of the hip-hop side of things, there's a lot of hidden satanic and a lot of evil within them, including down to the beats. It's very real. Music attaches to your emotions. It has a connection to your spirit and how you feel. That's why I've stopped listening to those types of music myself, because it doesn't suit my spirit. And he says that especially when it comes to children, certain music is 100% has a negative effect on society. Our society has never been worse in many areas, and it starts from our children. It's coming in right at our children from the very beginning to get them to sway away from anything godly, anything controlled or disciplined. It's getting wilder and wilder out there for a reason. Yeah. And he also, in the past year, said that Sam Smith and Beyonce are, quote, so demonic, it's unbelievable. That I would agree with about Sam Smith, because he's literally dressing up as Satan with a pitchfork and doing what he does on stage.
Listening to a lot of the old horrorcore rap that I listened to growing up, which is actually demonic, because a lot of it is essentially stuff like UGK, Ghetto Boys, Spice One, Doomsday Productions, and a lot of it is written as if Fever Dreams from PCP. There's heinous stuff that would get us banned on YouTube in the lyrics if I said it here. I'm like 9 years old, like listening to this stuff, right? That's when I think of demonic. And I actually got into it because I was talking to somebody on Twitter about it. I was like, I can't believe that. I was like listening to this in the car, you know, with my headphones on and stuff like that. Like stuff about dead children, stuff like just awful shit. But it's written in an artistic perspective of somebody who's just high out of his mind on drugs that give you violent thoughts and tendencies, right? But it's still art in a lot of ways. The idea that they're like cramming it into the Taylor Swift stuff because of the symbolism makes sense, but we're just in such a place now where, because she's so profitable for everyone that wants to talk about, everyone has to find their way to get a piece of what she can do for them,
right? That
I'm just like, bro, I watched a dentist talk about her veneers for like 10 minutes. Like, they're just finding their way to fit it into their spectrum.
Well, in regard to what you're talking about with that rap music, I know it's hard for you to put yourself in this position, but what if you were the dad of 9-year-old Brett? Would you let 9-year-old Brett be listening to that type of music? Would you?
Well, you could blame 14-year-old Big Brother Ben for not keeping his CDs locked up, because that's what I would do.
Would you let 14-year-old brother Ben?
He would have been older. My brother was 7 years older than me, so he'd have been like 16.
Okay,
But,
whatever.
He would have been able to buy him
Regardless.
himself because he had his own job, so he could have bought his own music.
Put yourself in that position,
Yep.
would you have allowed 9-year-old you to listen to that music? Be honest.
I'm not a dad, so I can't say, but probably not.
Okay, so why?
I have no idea how to explain. It would not be a good influence, but I also see it as one of those things where I can look back on it now with a little bit more of a laugh because I turned out very different. But I was raised with structure in a suburb, right? Like I listen to this stuff, and it's not. I'm not listening it for in an ironic way. But it was entertainment, and I always consumed it as such. I watched plenty of horror movies at that age, too, that also had blood, guts, and dead teenagers that didn't turn me into a serial killer, because at the end of the day, art is still art. And if you've been raised with halfway decent parents, you have a separation between fact and fiction and the ability to consume art for what it is, you can responsibly evaluate something that may be a little bit risque.
Well,
right?
I don't know if it's the best representation of the argument to say, like, well, I listened to this or I watched this and I didn't become a serial killer. Because it's not exactly what this more conservative side of the culture is saying the influences on children.
Yep.
No one thinks that girls are going to go to the Eras Tour and then suddenly start doing satanic rituals in their bedrooms or becoming witches, right? But it's a more sinister influence precisely because of the fact that it's less in your face.
And at the time when I was younger, I didn't think about the social implications of something like this. And I don't think people at that age do.
But when you don't have the ability to think about those implications, or you don't have the ability to filter what you consume as a kid, that's the reason why you have older adults to decide for you what you're exposed to.
It's also why the albums came with parental advisory stickers that we always seem to find a way around. Yeah, I laugh because now we have a job now that requires us to overanalyze so much of what this stuff is. You forget what it was like to just be a passive consumer, where you found something with a song with a hook you really, really like, and the lyrics, maybe they speak to you a little bit, maybe they don't. I certainly didn't think about what it meant for the people who grew up. You know, the people who wrote these songs wrote from personal experience, things that actually happened to them where they were raised, and I'm so far removed from that it's more interesting about how it can actually bridge the gap between different cultural and socioeconomic divides to me than anything else. But that's an overly annoying and
9-year-old Brett was not even close to thinking about that.
9-year-old Brett was like, well, we were laughing about it because I was playing this song and they were like, what the fuck? And I was like, but picture 9-year-old Brett with a Discman going...
Yeah.
Like this. There is a line about deep fried baby guts, and I was trying to explain. I'm like, but 9-year-old Brett didn't care. 9-year-old Brett was just like, cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also like a little bit of a difference between like somebody writing about like artfully, for better or worse, describing what they went through in a situation, and somebody being like, oh, by the way, hail the Dark Lord. Or like not even, but being much less open about it and including people in it unbeknownst to themselves, a lot of them thinking they're at the show of this Christian person who...
Taylor Swift, you mean?
Yes. Yeah, there's a difference between that. And then slowly and subtly influencing them to act counter to those values over time that breaks down the walls that their parents are trying to build for them in the first place, while the parents are being lied to by like, no, it's Taylor Swift. She's like a Christian from the heartland. She's just this innocent pop star.
She's Miss Americana.
Yeah. It's like, no.
Well, I don't know if you've looked into this as deeply as we have unfortunately done, but I think that what he's referring to here is what looks like an occult ritual during the performance of one of her songs from the album Evermore called Willow. And you can look at the music video as well. It's inspired by that, the way they designed the set. all of the dancers and Taylor, they wear these hooded cloaks, and it looks like they're in this enchanted forest, and they're all holding these glowing orbs, and they're throwing them in different patterns and directions. And the performance also involves the incorporation of different elements of the earth, which is, like that is part of certain
Druidism.
certain occult rituals. But would I go so far as to say Taylor Swift is cognizant of that, or even the set designers? I'm not sure. Even though I'm more sympathetic to, like, I'm a conservative, authoritarian, moralist, etc. I am sympathetic to that read of what it is, but I just am not sure Taylor Swift herself is cognizant of that, or her fans, obviously. What do you think?
I always think I'm of the Hollywood conspiracy mindset that, like, to get to this level, you're making certain agreements with certain entities, be they groups of people or institutions, or that you're going to do things our way and you're going to toe a certain line in your personal life to represent yourself the way we want you to represent, or your career's over. Like, I think of all of these people as made people, not self-made people. It doesn't mean that they don't have talent. I'm just saying there's a lot of talented people out there. How come some breach a certain level that others who are just as talented don't? It's their marketability. They're selected. And why is money, like, the only reason she's able to do a tour like this is because there are people willing to put money behind it, knowing that there will be a return on that investment. There's other groups, and how come it seems to be the ones that are on this level always have something, there's something about them individually and the way, like, they say things in certain ways. Bono is another one. Like, ask yourself why U2 still has some of the largest, most expensive, like, concerts in the world. I'm a conspiracy theorist about that. I think there's something to
why were they allowed to perform at the Sphere?
Right. And then, like, I see things like, go back in time almost 20 years now, I think, when Pink did the VMAs, I think, and that's one of the most, like, esoterically deep and rich performances I've ever seen, and it's just right on the dot. Pink, yeah.
Of all people, Pink was doing this.
Yes.
Can you recap this?
Yeah, she did the entire Rite of the Entered Apprentice of Freemasonry. That was the show.
Do you think that Pink herself would have known what this was?
100%.
And what it meant?
So, yeah. Yeah, it was
okay, I'll take a look at that after.
It's 100% it. It's not like, oh, it's kind of inspired by this. They did it. Like, they did the Rite of the Entered Apprentice.
Or Brett, can you pull it up? I don't know, like, if we would get a copyright claim for.
We would get a copyright claim.
Okay, well, maybe we'll avoid that, but I'll look up that video on my own time. But yeah, just in order to be a Taylor Swift or any of these stars, you have to think about all of these powerful people that you need to make sure like you and favor you, right? Like, Taylor Swift wouldn't be Taylor Swift without the backing, both financially and just professionally, socially, of so many powerful people that we don't know the names of.
Yep.
It's just it's not organic. And I'm not saying her appeal entirely to young women is inorganic. I understand it completely and where it comes from, but it's not 100% organic.
But, like, at a certain point, you see enough of this everywhere, whether it's with Taylor Swift or Katy Perry. Like, Katy Perry's videos are really, like, occult oriented, whether it's like Eye of Horus stuff. And
I'm about to go on Vigilant Citizen right now and look up Katy Perry, and you see all the examples.
And, like, other what's her name? Is it Doja Cat that does all the, like, crazy demon stuff?
I mean, she literally has a song called Demon in which the music video in which she dresses up as a demon in black body paint.
But you see enough of it to where it's like, okay, they know what they're doing at the very least. And you hear enough stories from people that have been in the industry and say, like, yes, deeply embedded in this industry, there are people who are trying to, like, do these things.
But if you ask Doja Cat, she would say that you're an idiot, and she's actually, by making a song called Demon, making fun of you for even thinking that she's involved in some secret network of occult ritualism.
I don't think so. Like, I think maybe on the surface, yes, but, like, there's
always what they
a lot
say.
of depth to like, she has a music video that's all Masonic stuff. It's newish, I think.
Is it Paint the Town Red?
Maybe it's the one with all the, like, checkered floors and
okay.
And like, the people that are designing that know Like they know a lot about Masonic lore. Like they understand it's not something you get from a Wikipedia search. It's something that you understand what the meaning behind these to this particular institution are. And it makes sense that like there's a lot of money in those institutions. Where do you think a lot of money comes from? It comes from large industries, be it architecture, which they're very deeply embedded in, and entertainment, and like they want to influence the world. I'm not saying that like there is a panel of Masons that run the world like a star chamber, but I do think that they are deeply embedded. There's a reason that a lot of presidents are Masons or members of Skull and Bones. There's a reason. They may not be aware to the level of control that those institutions have, and a lot of the celebrities may be like, oh, this is just cool provocative stuff, but there is ill intent behind it at the very, very, very top, in my opinion. And I think that people like I remember I started noticing this stuff when CeeLo Green started doing a bunch of like set design and stuff for different artists.
Which is funny because he was like a legitimately really gifted rapper, like all the way back in the late 90s.
Yeah,
like,
but he was always a big in the design of concerts, production, and the music. And he puts a lot of like really dark imagery in those designs and in the music, and like and he says as much. You know, there are other artists who are like, yeah, like this is, people are aware of this. Like Cat Williams is in trouble now for saying that. Like, yeah, everybody
about
knows this.
CeeLo Green.
No, about P Diddy. Saying, like they know this stuff. Like it's not. They're aware at least the top levels. A lot of these up and coming people may be like, oh, this is going to be awesome, and then they get in over their head. There's a reason that like child stars are crazy people a lot of times, because the people at the top do bad things to them and put them in bad situations. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Like it's becoming more and more obvious because of the internet. But yes, if there's something that looks like an occult ritual in a concert that costs $1 billion to produce for a tour, there's probably something to it.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.